So the challenge consists of labs and in-body at the beginning of the challenge and at the end. And then in the 13 weeks, a combination of weekly group sessions where Jane walks through that content, and it's education and group support. And then the challenge participants also get one-on-one coaching sessions with Jane where they can really dial in on what their goals are and the pitfalls that they personally are coming up against. And she's very good at meeting people where they are and getting that personal help. So we found that the program is just when people put the effort into it and they really follow the process, they get really great results.
Many people were wanting to lose their extra body fat, but that was more a side effect that would occur from making the lifestyle changes that we were working on to improve their metabolic health. And we did take a look at, in the beginning, everyone's lab values, their in-body measurements, which measures body composition. But we weren't just focused on the scale. There were many non-scale measurements that people were making progress in, how their clothes were fitting, how much more brain clarity they had, less brain fog, how they felt, sleeping better, less acid reflux. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. My main motivation for having good metabolic health is to have good brain health. I have family history of Alzheimer's, and we know that having good metabolic health helps prevent dementia and Alzheimer's. As a matter of fact, Alzheimer's is now being referred to as type 3 diabetes. So for me, my personal motivation for eating and living the way we go about doing things in the HELPcare Challenge is for myself to be healthy, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and have that good brain health.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Take Charge with HELPcare. I'm Dan Hinmon, the co-host of this podcast. Today I'm with Aase, my other co-host, Rachel Borg, who is the challenge coordinator for the HELPcare Challenge, and we'll be talking about that a little bit during this episode. In fact, a lot in this episode. We're very excited about the benefit that brings to our patients. And also, we have with us today Jane Connell, who is a nutrition coach and registered dietitian who helps coach for the HELPcare Challenge. So we'll just start by saying, and let's ask Rachel maybe to start off by, Rachel, tell us a little bit about the big picture of the HELPcare Challenge. What is it? When is it happening? Why is it helpful? Fill in some of those questions.
Yeah, the HELPcare Challenge is a 13-week program. We offer 2 free metabolic health coaching sessions for all of our premier members, but we want to develop something that would help members who wanted more help, or non-members who wanted more help, more intentional, focused, systematic approach, rather than just, giving them the tools on the website or something like that. So we worked with Jane, and Jane developed the curriculum for the challenge based on the Health, Energy, and Longevity Plan, which is the booklet that Dr. Strobel and Lee created kind of at the beginning. And it has 11 chapters, 10 chapters?
There's 10 chapters.
10 chapters.
10 elements.
So Jane kind of distilled those 10 elements and turned it into a curriculum that spread over the 13-week challenge. So the challenge consists of labs and in-body at the beginning of the challenge and at the end. And then in the 13 weeks, a combination of weekly group sessions where Jane walks through that content, and it's education and group support. And then the challenge participants also get one-on-one coaching sessions with Jane where they can really dial in on what their goals are and the pitfalls that they personally are coming up against. And she's very good at meeting people where they are and getting that personal help. So we found that the program is just when people put the effort into it and they really follow the process, they get really great results.
It was really fun developing the HELPcare Challenge. As I mentioned in the last episode, when I discovered HELPcare, I was so excited because we were like-minded. HELPcare is cutting edge, and that was going to enable me to develop a program that was cutting edge and following the 10 tenets of the HELPcare program that Lee and Dr. Dave developed. So I was super excited to work on that.
Yeah, we want everyone to know that there is another episode that we previously recorded with Jane, talking in a little bit more detail about how her background, her relationship with HELPcare, and also a little bit more about the challenge. So tune into that. If you haven't had a chance to hear that already, recommend that you listen to that episode as well. But Jane, as you were pulling this course together, what were some of the key results you hoped you would see as you coach patients through this challenge?
Well, the title says it, the HELPcare Challenge to Improve Your Metabolic Health. So we were focusing on improving metabolic health. Many people were wanting to lose their extra body fat, but that was more a side effect that would occur from making the lifestyle changes that we were working on to improve their metabolic health. And we did take a look at, in the beginning, everyone's lab values, their in-body measurements, which measures body composition. But we weren't just focused on the scale. There were many non-scale measurements that people were making progress in, how their clothes were fitting, how much more brain clarity they had, less brain fog, how they felt, sleeping better, less acid reflux. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Oh, and how so many people were able to gradually get off of a lot of their pharmaceutical medications that were given to them by previous medical professionals who take the general approach of, well, you've got this problem, let's solve it by prescribing a pharmaceutical medication. That's the quick and easy way out, but it's just temporary. It's more like a Band-Aid, whereas our approach at HELPcare is to get down to the root of the problem, address that by making lifestyle changes, and then that allows people to gradually wean off those medications, which makes life easier, and then you don't have the side effects that some of the medications bring.
Yeah, makes great sense. So tell us a little bit, Jane, why you personally are committed to living and eating and in the same manner that we're helping people learn through this challenge.
My interest in health and healthy living goes way back to my own growing up in a family of medical people. My grandfather, father, uncle had a clinic where they were doctors. My mom was a nurse. So I always had a bent for healthy living. Didn't always, of course, but then over the years, through my career in working in pediatrics with children with diabetes and eating disorders and obesity, I developed, I eventually went into working jobs where I was coaching people remotely from home. And as I was doing that and getting my own annual physical checkups, I saw that my fasting blood sugar and my A1C, which is a measurement of your blood sugars over a 3-month time period, they were creeping up. And when I got those results, I was shocked. I thought, how could this be? Because I eat healthy whole foods, I exercise, I sleep well, manage my stress. So that got me really interested in digging into why is this happening, which led to me discovering continuous glucose monitors, which is a device that you put on your arm. It measures your blood sugar 24/7, and it helps you learn what the foods you're eating are doing to your blood sugar. And I participated, the first time I used a CGM, I participated in a challenge where we put money forth and then earned back $20 a day for every day we kept our blood sugars below 120. And I thought, I've got this. I had done a couple finger pokes and my blood sugars were staying mostly below 120. But then the challenge started and my blood sugar wasn't below 120. And I thought, oh my goodness, I can't afford to lose this money that I've put down. So I quickly changed my diet to reduce the carbohydrates and then had no problem keeping my blood sugar under 120. So my main motivation for having good metabolic health is to have good brain health. I have family history of Alzheimer's, and we know that having good metabolic health helps prevent dementia and Alzheimer's. As a matter of fact, Alzheimer's is now being referred to as type 3 diabetes. So for me, my personal motivation for eating and living the way we go about doing things in the HELPcare Challenge is for myself to be healthy physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and have that good brain health.
So let's back up and kind of go through the core elements of the 13-week challenge. Maybe even by starting by saying, when is the next challenge?
Well, I can take that. So the next HELPcare Challenge starts May 6th, and it runs every Tuesday night. And there's a 45-minute Zoom session with Jane and with the other members of the cohort, where Jane goes through each time one of the chapters in the Health, Energy, and Longevity Plan. And this is available for free on our website, so I'd encourage people to go download it and get it. I always say that if people download that and use that and get great results and never pay us anything, I will be delighted. This is just a labor of love for us, is that we want to share helpful information and if it doesn't cost us anything, because it doesn't cost us on the website for them to download it, we want to be able to share that. But what Jane does is she goes through, week by week, and then she has a couple of other sessions on mindfulness. Mindfulness isn't one of the 10 chapters. Remember, we wrote this 4 years ago, okay? So there's a lot that we learned since then, but these were the top 10 things that we were suggesting at that time. And she goes into in depth on each of those and kind of explains why this element is important and helps the members of the challenge discover together how they might best implement, some of these suggestions.
So the first session starts on May 6th, or the first.
Yep. The first classes, yeah.
Starts on
and
May
so what
6th.
we do before that, though, is I think it was mentioned a little earlier, we do a panel of blood tests that if you were getting them in the regular healthcare system would be over $1,000. I mean, all by themselves, they'd be $1,000. And it's getting you a baseline on how are you doing metabolically. So there are 4 different thyroid tests that we do, along with the hemoglobin A1C and the fasting insulin, the metabolic panel, and uric acid, and I think another 1 or 2. But those give you the baseline, along with then the in-body body composition test that says, so here's your starting point. Okay, and that's what we measure against to say at the end, so did we improve? Mm-hmm. And the reality is that the people who go through the program and stick with it make progress. They really do.
And so that's a meeting each week for 13 weeks. And then Jane, tell us a little bit about the personal coaching element of it.
Sure. So at the beginning of the 13 weeks, everyone who participates in that challenge has a 1-hour onboarding call with me, one-on-one coaching, where we basically set up their goal for the program. We talk about their why. Why do they want to achieve that? Because when they know their why and when the going gets tough, that can strengthen their ability to make the lifestyle changes that they're making. And through our discussion, we get a sense of where are their strengths for meeting this goal and where might their challenges be. And we come up with a plan that's very tailored to them in that first call. And then throughout the 13 weeks, they receive 8 half-hour coaching calls just to stay in touch on their progress, tailor the program to them. And on that last call, we review together their in-body results and their lab results, and basically get them thinking about, okay, where am I going to go from now, to help maintain their progress that they've been making.
So, what are some typical hurdles that people have to overcome through this 13-week period? Like as you work with them, what are some of the ways you're really able to help?
The biggest hurdle, hands down, is that people are accustomed to eating the typical American, the sad, typical American diet. And it's hard when your environment is, when you're surrounded by all the processed high carb foods, whether it be at work or school or home, social gatherings, travel. It really requires stopping and becoming aware of how am I eating and how can I make changes so that I begin to feel better and get healthier. So we talk about all of that, those changes in the group sessions and also the individual one-on-one coaching sessions.
I like what you talk about. I like what you talk about mindset in one of the chat about you. It's always, every time I get to that lesson, it's just always impactful when you say you learn to say no to things because you're saying yes to other things. And I find that like really helpful for people. So you can give the examples that you use. I just think it's really a good example of how mindset is just so important.
Yes, it is. And thanks for reminding me of that topic. So as I tell the challenge participants, I'm known for basically eating healthy, and because I'd like to, I know that it makes me feel good, and getting regular exercise, going to bed at a consistent, reasonable time. And when I am saying no to junk food and laying around watching TV and no to staying up late at night, I'm actually saying yes. Yes to having energy all day long. Yes to be able to cross country ski and get myself up when I fall, or, to help lift the canoe up onto the roof of the car. And I'm able then to, when I'm taking care of myself and saying yes to all the things that I can do, I'm able to reach out and do things like, help people in the HELPcare Challenge make their changes in their lifestyle. But mindset is so key. When we think we can do it, we can do it. And if we don't think we can, we don't do it. So it really makes a difference in how we think. And that's what we work on in one of the weeks of the HELPcare Challenge is changing your mindset about things so that it helps you accomplish what you want to accomplish.
And then giving them the tools so that they know, so that they can do it, so that they know what to do, and you lay it out and work on. I like how you have an assignment after each week of, okay, here's the thing specific to this topic that you're going to work on this week. And then, Jane starts the next week's session with, okay, how did it go? And then there's interaction and everybody's in the same boat, and it's just a really great community.
A lot of fun.
So it's tips and tools and support right through this whole process. I love this idea about thinking of every time you say no, you're saying yes to something else. And do you have any other kind of quick tips that our audience, as they're listening to this, would find interesting as people kind of run into those roadblocks or hurdles throughout the course?
Well, when everybody's going around living their daily life, what we see around us is the unhealthy eating, processed foods, high carbs. And when someone begins to make changes in their diet, it's difficult when you're in that environment of the unhealthy food. So what really helps is knowing that we're together in a group and we're making these changes together. So you feel like you've got a team that you're working with and having support in doing that.
It's a great tip. Find like-minded people who have similar goals, and then you'll have more success as you go through the process.
Very well said, Dan.
Yeah.
And the great thing is we just happen to be gathering all those people together to work with Jane. And that's what the HELPcare Challenge is all about, is that you've got that built-in support group of people who are also taking this seriously enough and wanting to make a difference in their lives.
Do you have a success story you would like to share with us from the challenge? I know this is going to be starting the seventh series?
This will be number 8.
The eighth challenge series in the last several years. Any one that kind of jumps out in your mind as somebody who came into the challenge and had a great experience with it?
Well, on the previous episode, I gave one success story, so I'll choose a different one this time. And this is a woman who was in the pre-diabetes, actually diabetes category based on her lab values. And she was in poor metabolic health and also wanted to lose about 50 pounds. And she happened to use a continuous glucose monitor to see the effects of the foods she ate on her blood sugar. And she was really astounded by what even healthy foods, what we all think of as healthy foods, but they're high in carbohydrates, the breads, pasta, rice, fruit, oatmeal, those are all touted as really healthy foods. What's that?
Bananas are the worst.
Yes. And people just don't know. They don't understand the effects that our food, even though they're considered healthy, can have on our blood sugar. So she was able to learn through wearing her continuous glucose monitor the effect that food was having on her blood sugar, and she made changes in her diet, and her lab values have improved, and I think she's lost 50 pounds at this point. So, and feels so much better, has all day energy. She doesn't have that blood sugar roller coaster where you get the peaks and valleys and the slumps and you feel like you need to lay down and take a nap. She is making great progress with implementing everything from the HELPcare Challenge that she learned.
Yeah, and these are some great examples, but I wanted to look at the bigger picture too, because we did take a look at the first 30 people who had gone through the challenge and their before and after lab values, as well as their before and after body composition. And what we found is that, like I said before, this is not a weight loss program, but on average, they lost about 10.5 pounds of body fat, for the first 30 who completed the challenge and got their before and after measurements done. And they improved their insulin resistance, like they became less insulin resistant. And that's the thing that puts them on the trajectory where they're getting healthier, improving their health instead of continuing in the direction that was heading them toward type 2 diabetes if they didn't already have it.
Yeah, I love some of these key benefits, not just the weight loss, but sleeping better, clearer mental health, clearer brain power. Anyway, the other things that you've mentioned already. Rachel, you have a comment, I think.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought of another tip as Jane was talking. A lot of people have really appreciated using Carb Manager, the app, to log their food. And a lot of people who just start with no idea of are bananas high in carbs? You can scan things and it'll say, the carb level, it'll put it what it is like danger zone, Jane, right? It'll say if it's red, green, or yellow, or
right.
Anyway, that's just been a tool that both in the challenge and then in the group after that we've developed, Maintaining Momentum, a lot of people find that really helpful to use. And it's free, so anybody could use that.
Yes, that's been a very eye-opening exercise for people to track their food and to see just how many grams of carbohydrates are in the food that they're eating. People have no idea. So there's a ton of education going on, people learning what changes are going to be helpful for them personally, because everybody's different. Everybody's body responds differently, but then they can learn what works for them and what changes work best for them to improve their metabolic health.
I just think it's just a really, we say it's a money back guarantee. Like if you don't improve your health, we'll give you your money back. And I will say in the 7 challenges, we've never had anybody who put in the work, who showed up, who asked for their money back. We've had people who life happened and they had to drop out. But it's just Jane has done a really, really good job developing, taking the content that HELPcare has and developing it into this program. And then it just has all the elements for success for people. And we're very blessed to have Jane as part of the team, and she brings a wealth of knowledge and experience. And it's been a pleasure to create this with her, and help support as I can, this program.
Jane, is there anything else you'd like to share with us today that we haven't asked you about so far?
I think that this HELPcare challenge is a perfect opportunity for anyone who is simply not feeling well. And the interesting thing is sometimes people don't realize how they're not feeling well until they get into the challenge and they begin making changes in their specifically diet. And they realize, oh my goodness, this is what feeling well feels like. This feels really good. I have more energy. I can bend down and tie my shoes. I don't have reflux. I'm, on and on and on. My clothes fit better. So it's just an opportunity for anyone who isn't feeling all that well. Something's not right. It's a great opportunity to get in there and be with like-minded people who are trying to feel better in their life.
Right. Yeah, one thing that we've often said, when Lisa and I were doing the coachings, we'd say, a year from now, you're going to be 52 weeks older. And you could either be the same as you are or continuing on the trajectory where you are. Or if you lose a pound a week, you can be 52 pounds lighter. And it really is a matter of just small changes that you follow consistently. And I think one of the things that people get frustrated with is that they'll go to their doctor and their doctor will say, well, you just need to eat less and move more. It's like, okay, and their doctors maybe disbelieve them that they say, well, really, I've been like, I've done what you told me I should do. And I'm not getting the results. And the doctors played like Dr. House, like all patients are liars kind of stuff, where, what we've come up with here that I think Jane has done such a great job of implementing and really fleshing out is these are principles that just work, that are in line with how we naturally are made to eat, and naturally made to move. And we're not meant to be eating all day long every day. Like that's not the way that our ancestors did. They would eat, they'd eat meat and they'd eat things with fat in them, and they would have the energy to go on, like Jane's talked about, the all-day energy instead of the blood sugar peaks and valleys and crashes, and so just being able to give people confidence that if you do this, if you do the work, it'll work. Like it's the frustrating thing is to say, oh, I'm going to invest in this and I'm going to do all this work and I'm not going to get results. We've not seen people fail to get results if they do the work. And because of Jane's good work in encouragement and the support that they get from other group members, most people do the work.
So we can summarize by saying the HELPcare Challenge starts May 6th. Where do they go to sign up? To our website?
HELPcare.health/challenge. There will be a price for non-members, and then a price for members. If you're a standard or premier member of the clinic, you get $300 off. But yeah, HELPcare.health/challenge. It starts on May 6th, meeting at Tuesdays. The group sessions are Tuesdays from 6 to 6:45, and those are recorded. So it's great to be there live, but they're recorded for people who, have a conflict and they need to watch the recording back. So.
Well, thank you, Jane, and thank you, Rachel. And of course, as always, thank you, Lee, for joining on the podcast today. Tune in next week.
Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave a comment or a review and to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on YouTube. And also to share Take Charge with HELPcare with your friends and on your social media channels. At HELPcare, our passion is helping people take charge of their health and their health care, helping employers take charge of their health plan expenses, and helping physicians and other practitioners take charge of their healthcare careers. Learn more about the HELPcare Clinic difference at healthcare.health.